All right, everyone, welcome back into another preseason NFL DFS video. Going to be touching on the 4-game early slate here on Saturday. Let's go ahead and get into it. And I want to start out with the quarterback position. We're going to have Patrick Mahomes in a very good spot. So we got news that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be playing their starters about a half of football. Well, it's recorded that's going to be a half of football. I say about a half of football because I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Patrick Mahomes and maybe like Travis Kelce might not play that much, but maybe Patrick Mahomes, they go out and score on their first two series. You don't want to extend Patrick Mahomes too much. At the same time, if we are getting the Chiefs starters playing a half of football, we obviously are going to want our exposure to Patrick Mahomes. That feels like a pretty easy play. The nice thing about this slate is that we are getting a bunch of kind of straightforward plays. There's not too much in terms of like game theory going into it, maybe like the Thursday night showdown slate. This one is just play the players that are going to be playing a lot of snaps, maybe stack the quarterbacks with some receivers. And that's what we're going to have here with the Cincinnati Bengals. So Logan Woodside has the potential to play more than a half of football, and I kind of expect him to. And Logan Woodside is someone that did look good last week. I do want to call it. People are going to maybe refer to the production that he had last week, which was great. 100-plus passing yards, a passing touchdown. Most of that came in the last 5 minutes of the game, just so you guys are aware of that. At the same time, Jake Browning is likely to sit in this one. Joe Burrow is sitting in this one. So that leaves two active quarterbacks. And we've seen in the past, last year as a reference point, this exact same situation. It was actually Jake Browning getting a majority of the snaps throughout the preseason, and then Trevor Siemian mixing in a little bit as the backup quarterback. The backup quarterback is going to be Rocky Lombardi. I will have a little bit of exposure to him just in case he plays a full half of football. Let's say Woodside gets the first half, Lombardi gets the second half, maybe. But for the most part, I don't really care about him as a play. I would say Woodside is the play that gives us the best potential for upside. Now, we do need to pay attention to the New York Giants and kind of what's going on there. Drew Lock has the potential to sit. Daniel Jones might play, and if he does play, he's not going to play that much. That would leave Tommy DeVito as a really strong candidate. Now, I do think Drew Lock is going to play, but just be on the lookout for that. If we get news that Tommy DeVito is going to play and potentially play the full game, he becomes the best quarterback play on the slate. And then from there, we need to get a little bit more clarity on the Minnesota playing time here. From what I've seen, Sam Darnold is not going to play in this game. I've seen conflicting reports on that. The one I have most confidence in is that Sam Darnold's not going to play. And that should mean, yeah. So we got Nick Mullins on this report from RotoWire saying that Nick Mullins is going to start. So yeah, Sam Darnold not going to be playing. And so the question that I have is how much playing time are we looking at here? Is Nick Mullins going to play a half and Jaron Hall going to play a half? That's again going to be intriguing for me. I'm probably looking at 10% Hall, 10% Nick Mullins, just kind of splitting the difference. Hall is someone that can rush the football, just as an FYI. But again, I still think I like Logan Woodside a little bit more. At the same time, DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, might be playing a full half of football in this game. So he's going to start in this game. I'm assuming that means Winston's out. And I saw some kind of conflicting reports again with him suggesting that maybe Winston's going to sit. But whatever, I'm expecting him to sit. Watson's not going to play until next week. And so DTR playing a full half of football is interesting. And so is Tyler Huntley playing a full half of football as well. And so that's the issue that we have on the slate. We have a lot of straightforward quarterback plays playing a half of football. Obviously, we're probably going to want the most exposure to Mahomes, but we're going to have a little bit of Huntley, a little bit of DTR, maybe Tommy DeVito being the top play. Going to have some of Mullins, going to have some of Jaron Hall. Then we're going to have a bunch of Logan Woodside as well. Logan Woodside might actually be my favorite play, and we'll get into that a little bit more as we go. But let's go ahead and jump on into the running back. So running back wise, we can actually stick with the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to see that Chris Evans is going to be out in this game. Okay, he's out for the season. And so with that, that's most likely going to leave the Cincinnati Bengals extremely thin at the running back position. Okay, at the running back position, they have Zach Moss, who sat out last game. I do think he has the potential to play in this game. The starters are going to sit. He has kind of been reported as maybe the 1B to Chase Brown's 1A. Okay, and so Chase Brown did play in the first game, but given the fact that Zach Moss did not play last week, I do think there's the potential for him to play. But if they both sit, then we're just looking at three active running backs. So Williams would be the one we would want the most exposure to. He becomes the simple and easy play. But I do want to call out that Elijah Collins was the player that was on the field the most with Logan Woodside, and he actually had one really big catch up the field. He looks smooth doing that. I would suggest having one of these two in your builds, especially if we get news that Zach Moss is going to sit. Again, I'm assuming Chase Brown is going to sit. Yeah, that's just something we want to get a little bit of confirmation on prior to lineup lock. But both of those plays, I would say, are going to be good plays. Kane, not doing it for me. So let's go ahead and move on into the Bears. Really nothing there for the running backs as a whole. I will say I don't mind Velus Jones Jr. as a running back in this game. I kind of mentioned last week and in the last 2 weeks that he was someone that I liked a decent amount, had a decent amount of him last week. He got a rushing touchdown. That felt good. He's been the talk of camp, really, besides Caleb Williams. He has looked good, apparently, as well. They're trying to find unique ways to get him some carries. If we get any sort of news indicating that he might get more snaps, even at the running back position, we could potentially load up on 4 running backs, which just lead to a little bit more safety typically on these main slates. And so I wouldn't mind that with the potential for him to get some pass receptions, but let's not go crazy with that. For New York, we do need to call this out as well. And this is where, again, maybe a little bit too early to for sure say that we're getting the clarity that we want, but it's looking like a pretty good running back slate, especially with the Giants here. And so Tyrone Tracy actually could play in this game after seemingly maybe potentially being out for the year. A lot of people were concerned about him. And that just goes back to kind of beat reporters, just putting out news captions, trying to be the first one to put that out. So we'll see. If he sits, and Dante Miller is someone that could potentially sit as well. We got to see. He was limited in practice on Tuesday. If he sits, then Eric Gray becomes just a phenomenal play for us. The issue that I have is, all right, how much would he actually play then if all the other running backs are a little bit banged up? Now, I do want to call out, Gray played about 26% of the snaps, which was the least compared to Tracy and Miller. At the same time, I don't think it really matters. Miller was kind of the late game running back. I do want the most exposure to him if he's going to be active and Tracy is not active. We got to wait on that. For now, I think it's safe to go Gray, but that is something we are still waiting on. For Houston as a whole, guys, just as an FYI, probably not getting that much exposure to them, as well as the Bears for the most part. There are 2 teams that have played twice already, so this is going to be their 3rd game. They kind of have gotten the looks that they have wanted to get at their players for the most part. And they're just kind of going through the motions in a way. So I don't really want to mess with those teams too much. If someone goes off and I miss out on it, I'm kind of okay with it. For Detroit, Baki is someone that looked good. I was actually pretty impressed with him. He kind of just did everything right. If we want to get exposure to a Lions running back, it would be him. For the Chiefs, I wouldn't be surprised to see Carson Steele get some work at the goal line, maybe even with the starters. They're trying to get a look at him. And so I do think he has a good potential to score a rushing touchdown, kind of like Milton on Thursday night. I kind of mentioned I sneakily liked him the most out of the Eagles running backs because I thought he had a decent chance to get a lucky touchdown, which is exactly what happened. It was a lucky touchdown. I think Steele has a chance to get a lucky touchdown in this game as well. Minnesota, they are still thin, but we didn't see that many snaps go to the running backs as we would have thought. So like only 17 and only 19. That's concerning. I might have exposure to those 2, but for now I do not. And then looking at the Browns, the reason why I probably won't have that much exposure elsewhere is because the Browns are going to probably present a good opportunity for us again. We don't expect Jerome Ford to play in this game or really much at all again with the starters most likely sitting. Foreman is still coming back from that neck injury. He has been participating in practice. He might get some reps in this game. He might not. I don't expect him to play all that much. And then, so again, Strong is the player that we probably want to be getting our most exposure to. He is someone that really didn't have a massive game, but he had 9 opportunities in that game. And that's really all we can ask for. And so again, he's going to be in a good spot for us in this game. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the receivers that we want to be on. And so I already mentioned all the quarterback plays that we're probably looking at. Let's go ahead and look at some potential stacking opportunities. So Jermaine Burton, I think he's going to be probably higher owned than he probably should be. I mentioned on last week's slate, he was one of my favorite receiver plays. Ended up getting pretty lucky with him. Let's just be honest. Watching that game back, his production, Logan Woodside's production, it all came in the last 5 minutes. Two big plays to Burton, though. Burton scored a touchdown. Really nothing on Burton's part, to be honest. Like Woodside threw a dime of a pass. Burton had an okay double move. I mean, it wasn't that great. Created enough separation. But Burton made a nice catch on that. My concern with Burton as a play, who did play a bunch in that game, is going to be the fact that Charlie Jones might be back in this game as well. He returned to practice on Thursday, so that's not a lot of time. Maybe gets worked in a little bit. If we get news that he's not going to be limited, Charlie Jones that is, then it does muddy up the situation a little bit. I do want to call out Lassiter as well. Lassiter got a lot of design reps. He was someone that did look kind of dynamic when he had the football in his hands as well. Didn't have that much production, only 3 catches, but he had 6 targets. Again, a few of those were by design. And so Burton I like as well. Trenton Irwin actually started. Andre Yoshivas still continues, I think, to be the best kind of value draft pick you can make right now. Kendrick Pryor almost had a touchdown. Logan Woodside was very upset at himself for missing him on a touchdown. Pryor is someone that I like with Woodside as well. And so, if we're stacking Woodside, we're probably stacking him with these 3. And while we're at it, let's stick with the tight ends as well, because Tanner Hudson, I was honestly a little bit concerned about Tanner Hudson on the preseason slate. I kind of had him as the 3rd best tight end play, which ended up working out. He was the 2nd scoring tight end behind my favorite tight end play, which we'll get into in a second here. But I was kind of wrong. I thought last year on film, he had shown enough to really not be playing that much in these preseason games, and he played the full first half. He was very productive, had kind of a bad drop, but if he's going to be playing that much again, I think he's someone that we do need to be considering again as well. He's a preseason GOAT. Everyone knows it. Feel comfortable playing him, but we might get some other decent plays as well. And those other decent plays might actually come from the New York Football Giants. So let's go ahead and get into those. So obviously I mentioned Tommy DeVito could actually be in a very good spot for us. Receiver-wise, it's still a massive guessing game. Bryce Ford Wheaton did play 47% of the snaps, which is huge. Obviously, we want to be chasing snaps. He was returning from injury, didn't really do that much in that game, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a better game in this game. So if you're stacking Tommy DeVito, I think Wheaton would be the most logical play there. After that though, guys, we probably just want to load up on the tight ends. So Tyree Jackson is someone that played 67% of the snaps in that game. He's going to be out. Tager is still not practicing, and so that means Theo Johnson still is going to be a great candidate to get a lot of work. And Johnson is someone that played in 67% of the snaps last week as well. And so he is probably the best tight end play that we have on this slate as well, just given the likelihood for him to get a lot of snaps. So I do think we should be going there. Receiver-wise for Houston, guys, I'm kind of okay mixing in Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson. They still make sense to get a lot of work. Cephas did look good in that game. Kind of popped, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a little bit more emphasis on getting them the football in this game. But that seems more of a next week type play when the stars really aren't playing that much. Jumping into Detroit, Antone Green is someone that's out, which should create some sort of opportunity for us to be on someone. I'm just not seeing it, guys, right now. I feel like it's a guessing game. If I had a guess, it'd be Fountain or Williams, but I don't want to guess on that. There's no point of it. KC, this also feels like a guessing game. Like, are they going to try to get looks at players, which the Chiefs do? They're going to mix and match some players in there. Like Justine Ross is probably my favorite Chiefs play. He'll play a little bit more in the second half, though. He might mix in with the starters slightly. Sky Moore maybe gets going. It's a guessing game. We want some exposure. Maybe Worthy is someone we get exposure to. We want some exposure to these guys, but nothing too crazy. And then we jump into Minnesota. Oh, for what it's worth, guys, for the Chiefs as well, tight end wise, since I mixed these two together. I do think there's a potential for Kelsey not to play that much. And so Noah Gray would then kind of be considered the starter. And if he's playing that much, I don't think he would give us a 0 at the tight end position. Normally, you're just looking to not get a 0. So receiver-wise for the Minnesota Vikings, obviously we do have those two quarterbacks that we want to be on between Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall because they're probably going to play about a half. So from there, like, who are we looking at? Well, it does get more difficult because Jalen Naylor, with Jordan Addison being banged up, becomes the receiver number 2. Now, Jalen Naylor looked good last week, okay? Ended up with 9.3 DK points. That was huge for us on that slate. I worry that he looked too good. He's not going to play that much in this game. He might not play at all. Does that mean Brandon Powell is going to play in this game or not? It's tough to say for sure. Brandon Powell, if we knew he was going to get a lot of work, would be a very interesting play. But there is some important news here. They did get banged up at the receiver spot. Thompson went down with an injury. So that means someone like Lucky Jackson is probably going to get a decent amount of work in this game. Jackson is someone that already played in over half of their snaps, or just about half of their snaps last week, playing 31 total. So he's someone we're looking at. Then the player that I liked when he was a rookie with the LA Rams coming out of Syracuse was Tristan Jackson. Hasn't really been able to stick. He ended up having a massive game in that game, 4 receptions, 100 yards. And like, he was someone that was super talented coming out of college, just didn't have a big sample size really to it. And he is someone that I don't mind in this game. He should play a lot of snaps, playing 30 snaps in that last game. And so again, if we're mixing and matching Jaron Hall and Nick Mullins in there a little bit, we want to get our exposure to Jackson. It's just kind of a smart play, especially due to the fact that he should be getting a lot of work in this game. So from there, let's get into Cleveland. And so again, just going to be putting in one of the quarterbacks with the Cleveland stack here. And so one of the players that really stood out to me in film was Thrash, guys. He was really popping on film. He's kind of a speedster type of guy. They're going to try to get him the football as well. They are kind of low receiver wise as well with the amount of receivers that they have, especially if their starters are not playing. So Judy, Moore, Tillman's going to get some work, but I'm not sure how much he will get. And so that becomes an intriguing kind of stack there as well. And so the tight end that I was teasing was Mitchell Patton. He had a good game as well. We're going to be mixing him in there as well. It's crazy. Like all the best tight end slates probably for this whole week are seemingly on the best slate in terms of predictability. And so I do kind of want to give you guys a sample build, but at the same time, this is a slate where I would suggest just doing stacks. For defense, however, let's start there. We know that the Chiefs starters are going to be playing a half of football. Detroit is most likely going to play Sudfeld or Hayden Hooker. Hooker should be healthy and good to go in this one, apparently. That's what the reports are suggesting. But either way, we're getting backups against the Chiefs starters. Sudfeld did not look good. The stats might say he was okay. He did not look good. So I think the Chiefs defense makes the most sense. Quarterback-wise, again, I'm more leaning towards Logan Woodside right now. That's a little bit due to I think he's easier to stack. Now, real quickly, I wanted to take a peek at this as well. The sportsbook tab. Is there a game that we should be targeting more or less than the other? Well, see, here's why I like the Chiefs defense. So this is a high-scoring game, 39, right? They're 7-point favorites in this preseason game with Detroit. So that should tell you a lot there already. One of the higher-scoring games, which I'm a little bit surprised by, the Giants and the Texans. That's supposed to be a close game as well. Maybe we favor the Giants a little bit more. Again, we got those running backs that we want to be targeting. And then from there, a lot of the games are a little bit lower scoring. So there is that element. So I wanted to take a peek at that to see if there's any games that we should be targeting, and we kind of get the picture that there are. Maybe this changes. We'll go with Mahomes, whatever. We'll go with Mahomes. He'll be chalk. Everyone knows it. We'll put him in there. My issue with Mahomes is it's a guessing game as to who you should stack him with. And so that's why I like Woodside, because it's more straightforward, I would say. You're going Burton. You're maybe going Tanner Hudson. It's easier there. But running back wise, let's do that. We'll go Williams. You could go Collins. For the Giants, again, going with Gray right now. I do think one of Tracy or Miller will play, and then we probably want to get some exposure to them. And then from there, I think I want to play strong at the running back position as well. The flex, feel pretty good about that. Receiver-wise, I probably still will go Burton there. I feel comfortable doing that. I still think forward Wheaton does make some sense in this game. Hopefully he demands a little bit more targets in this game. Theo Jackson is someone that we do want to get to as well. And so this is kind of our way of getting our exposure to that high scoring game. And then who's the other receiver that we want to be in? I mean, we could take a guess. We could try to get to Worthy, Sky Moore, Ross. It does feel like a guessing game here. And man, I think I'd rather just go with Thrash or one of the Jacksons for Minnesota, just because I think we can predict their playing time a little bit better. Let's go with Lucky Jackson, just knowing that Tristan Jackson came in off of the high or off of the good game. A lot of people are probably going to be on him instead. So did want to call that out. And so that's going to be all for this video, guys. I will be coming out with the afternoon video as well. Maybe Saturday morning or maybe Friday evening. The projections will be up for sure on Saturday morning. And again, probably Friday as well, and that'll be for all the games on Saturday, including the Saturday showdown slate, the early one for Baltimore, because they're kind of thin at running back and we should have an edge there. So I will be having those projections out as well. If you guys want access to the 9-to-5 lineup optimizer for preseason NFL DFS, get access to that for just $10 a month. All right, that's going to be all for today's video. You guys can sign up for that at 9to5sports.com. But that's going to be all for today's video. Make sure to give a like, guys. Again, that really does help out the channel. Give a like and subscribe as well. Do appreciate that. Good luck on your preseason NFL DFS lineups for the early slate. Thanks for watching. As always, let's keep cashing.